Greetings, RSPK gamers. This is Eric Reeds. I'm here to present the top RSPK players by ELO of 2024, along with some honorable mentions. These results consist of 7 events from this year: Stamblers 1 through 5, a series of TCG1 tournaments, and Double Rainbow Cup and Boomer Cup, 2 in-person Japanese events. If you're familiar with my channel, you're probably expecting something long, rambling, and opaque, but I'm trying to make this video appealing to the normies in the audience who might be watching and wanting to learn a thing or two about RSPK. Why? I don't know. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before getting into it, let's start off with our honorable mentions. Jason Klaczynski not only got top 4 at Stambler 3, but also managed an incredibly impressive second place finish at Double Rainbow. He played several decks this year, but mostly stuck with Gambler. His middling performances at other events dragged his elo down, but make no mistake, this goat is not washed. World Champ Chuck managed a top 2 finish at Stambler 4, where he went undefeated and even took out Tord Reklev and Swiss before succumbing to him in finals. He only played in one other tournament, Stambler 1, where he dropped after a couple rounds, but he is certainly not to be underestimated. Blandisi also managed a Stambler top 2, this time at Stambler 5. In addition, he was able to make top 8 at Stambler 4. He just seems to show up and play whatever deck seems good at the moment, as he played a myriad of different styles, mostly taking lists from other more successful players. We'll have to see if his approach continues to net rewards. And finally, Vicky. Vicky's performances in Stambler Opens have left a lot to be desired. However, he did win Boomer Cup in a dominant fashion, going 6-0 and taking out plenty of scary names along the way with his Gardevoir build. Time will tell if this is a flash in the pan or if his middling results are the true outliers. And now let's get into the top 10. Raspberry Bell, aka Negi, is a difficult player for most to evaluate. He does queue up on TCG1 sometimes, and chances are if you've played him at the wee hours of the night in America, he'd beat the brakes off for you. There are 2 things that hold Raspberry Bell back as a player: his hatred for waking up early enough for Stambler and his hatred for Stambler, well, the Pokemon. Beyond that, he has seemingly no cracks in his game. A 5-1 finish at Boomer Cup and a top 8 at Double Rainbow as his lone results for 2024 show that he's absolutely able to perform at a high level. And while these are only Japanese events, keep in mind that most of the strongest players in this format are Japanese, so being able to perform well in those environments is particularly impressive. Raspberry Bell is a longtime veteran to the format. He's the one who created 204 Pidgeot, but his 2024 innovations have been rather tame. He piloted Bombtar and Gardevoir with his own unique spins to the top tables, and showed he could succeed with another player's list and Bomb Champ as well. It's no question he's one of the finest players to ever throw down a Holland Transceiver. The only question mark going into 2025 will be if he's able to wake up on time for an online event, assuming of course he's not too discouraged by Odojishi by that point. There are many players on this list who have their own novel approaches to established archetypes, who bring something new to the table and influence players with their successful innovations. There are even several who have created their own archetypes seemingly from scratch, breathing new life into this endlessly evolving format. And then there is Q, who seems allergic to taking the easy way out. Like the American mysterious player, he does gravitate towards Stage 2 decks, but what he does within that mold is something that only he can explain. His resume this year includes a top 2 finish at Stambler 2, a Double Rainbow top, and he finished the year off with a top 4 finish at Stambler 5. He saw success with his own version of Metagross Swampert and Tyranitar EX, but the deck he's become most associated with is undoubtedly his Cradily deck. This wild deck had an insane run at Stambler 2, only falling to Tord in the finals and taking names all along the way there. And his Tyranitar EX deck still baffles me. An incredible top 4 finish with cards that are on paper significantly underpowered is seriously impressive stuff. Who knows where Q's mind will take him next? Maybe in 2025 we'll even get to see him break Walrein. The first Double Rainbow champion, Chiro, has had a great year in 2024. He's been one of very few players to have top cut 3 times at Stambler 2, 4, and Double Rainbow. And most of his performances this year are with his own patented deck, Chiro Special. Called Legend Box by some, Latios by the initiated, and Chiro Special by the cultured ones, Chiro Special is a deck that has confounded players for ages. Part of the confusion arises from the fact that he keeps updating his list, and part of the appeal to understanding it is the fact that he just keeps topping event after event with the deck. He's dabbled in other decks as well, Sceptile to poor results, and Dragtrode to a Double Rainbow top, which shows that he's not interested in just being a one-trick pony and makes his potential in 2025 even greater. And while Chiro's tops have been a bit shaky and his results in top cut have been underwhelming, he's been able to compete with the best when he's on, and as long as he keeps innovating in 2025 as much as he did in 2024, there's no doubt he'll be a familiar face at the top tables. There are some who may object to TenTen's placing on this list. After all, he did only enter one large tournament in 2024, and unlike Kanton, Tord, or Jason, he doesn't have a particular reputation that precedes him. And the deck that he played, Bombtar, wasn't particularly teched out, nor is he known for being some innovative mastermind to the format like May or Q. But still, it cannot be overstated. He won Double Rainbow 2024, which is by far the biggest RSPK tournament of the year. He got through 7 grueling rounds with Swiss and progressed through a top cut that included veteran players Suika and of course Jason Klasinski in finals. In a tournament where most of the format's top talent was congregated, prepped, and playing to win, TenTen stood above all, not crumbling under the nerves of the environment at any time as many players likely would have. Though he's still unproven as far as being a consistency machine like, say, Little River, his peak is very clear. And so we go into 2025 with the mysterious victor of 2024's largest event. It's a testament to the volatility of the format that sometimes, quote-unquote, anyone can take an event by storm. Time will tell if this win will be perceived as a fluke or the start of an exciting RSPK career for TenTen. For prospective RSPK players, it's very easy to get overwhelmed looking at the format. In addition to the high costs of the cards, along with the fact that it's got a large community where seemingly everyone knows way more about it than you do, a mere glance at the topping decks for any given event will show you a slew of decks with completely different playstyles, many of which even the greater player base had never seen before. The format has dozens of viable decks to choose from, and the new ones seem to pop up all the time. So the question becomes, how can I possibly build in this format and account for all these possible permutations of decks by players who seem so much better than me? Well, if you're Hopkins, you pick a proven list by a strong player, grind standard, and let your fundamentals carry you to victory. Hopkins only entered 2 tournaments in 2024, Stambler 3 and 5. But he topped both, including his second place finish, only stopped by Tord. He picked 2 of my lists, my Gardevoir list from Double Rainbow 5, and my Ratlock list from Stambler 3, and piloted them like a natural, single-handedly showing that neither of these decks were decks that only one person could succeed with. Both times he made great metagame calls, was able to take out difficult matchups, and only fell to hard matchups and top cuts by very strong players where anyone would have faltered. Since he spends so much less time on prep than the other players here, I'm hopeful that he can attend more events in 2025, as his sporadic play in 2024 has the mark of a champion. And while I don't see him building his own metagame pushing lists anytime soon, he's already surprised us with his results using pre-built lists. Whatever the case may be, I'm excited to see him turn his question mark into an exclamation mark. Several surprises to me when I was working on research for my RSPK history video. The fact that RSPK has historically never existed in any official capacity is perhaps the biggest one. But a close second is the fact that Kanton has been working on theory crafting the format for nearly 10 years, way before any Westerners, and to be honest, most of his fellow countrymen had even conceived of it. This shows his diverse and genuinely groundbreaking contributions to RSPK, his Fire Mew Tech and Bomb Champ and Bayonet spurring on the Water Mew revolution of 2024, being chief among them. Bomb Champ itself is a Kanton invention, and his Bayonet has enough surprises in it to more or less be its own new strategy, and one that is tested well in the hands of others too. He's even tried his hand at innovating the most boring deck in the format, Ryegs, now featuring Quagsire, at Double Rainbow, to a disappointing, by his standards, but still respectable finish of 4-3. But Kanton is hardly just an ideas guy. His insane, resourceful, long-term play has seen him generate opportunities from seemingly nowhere, and he's been able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat time after time. His most impressive performance is easily his dominant 8-0 at Stambler 1, where he somehow defeated every single player in the top 8, taking out hard matchup after hard matchup throughout the day. The man is a powerhouse. Taking a single game off of him feels next to impossible without a significant matchup or starting advantage, and there's a good chance he'll beat you even with those odds. Aside from a disappointing run at Stambler 3, where he seemed to get lost in his own sauce, he has looked like a top 2 player all year. After nearly a decade of playing the format, there's no doubt Kanton will continue into next year as a top competitor to watch out for. It'll be interesting to see if he falls back on some old favorites, mixes things up and tries to breathe life into another archetype, or just comes up with something else entirely. The concept of a signature deck is virtually non-existent in most TCGs. Even in RSPK, where it was considered to be the case for a small handful of decks, the heightened skill of the player base has shown that all sorts of players can succeed with any number of decks. We saw Bomb Champ, seen as a Kanton staple, piloted by Raspberry Bell at the top cut in Double Rainbow. 3 players topped with Ratlock in 2024, and Chiro Special had a whopping 5 players on it at the most recent Stambler. However, there is one definitive signature deck right now, and that deck is Destiny. And its pilot is none other than Little River. The deck has more or less become synonymous with his patient, tactful playstyle, and though Little River is more than capable of piloting other decks, see his solid performance at Stambler 2 with Chicken, his expertise in constantly innovating and upgrading his pet deck has been his legacy for 2024. Keep in mind, Destiny is an extremely hard deck to pilot well. It plays differently in every matchup, it has no energy acceleration or movement, and it has no Pidgeot or any other power searching. It plays a massive amount of one-ups, meaning that you have to roll with the punches every single game. It's a testament to Little River's abilities that he was able to win with such consistency with a strategy that constantly plays in the margins. And he did it tournament after tournament, starting the year off with the 2nd place finish at Stambler 1 and topping it off with a 5-1 finish at Boomer Cup. Little River is also the only player to play at every single large RSPK event this year, and his worst record was a still respectable 3-3 at Stambler 4. Not only that, he was also the primary organizer for Double Rainbow itself. Now that he's delegated the future of Double Rainbow onto other organizers in order to focus even more on competing, who knows where his peak will be. I find myself fortunate to be among these incredibly talented and hardworking players, and find my own placing above many of them questionable due to my lack of placing above top 4 in any of the big tournaments from 2024. But if nothing else, I did go undefeated in Swiss at 3 events this year, and I was able to take out Tord more than anyone else, mostly by virtue of my deck more than my actual play. It's largely the deck that I've become synonymous with, Ratlock, that I would credit with my actual success. I punted many games to the format's brightest minds this year, yet felt like I was playing with cheat codes against many of them on the back of Ratlock's incredible prowess against the meta. As time passed in 2024, the format became less and less kind to Ratlock. The Sceptile EX revolution it helped to bring on was quickly met by a number of Fire Mews, and Ratlock specifically was met by more intense countermeasures in Mew Star and high warp energy counts. The deck has gone from being an unknown to seemingly the best deck in the format at times, to settling on something that can take out many of the top decks without issue, yet struggles with ones that tech heavily for it. And the trendiness of decks like Gardevoir and Kanton's Bayonet don't help. Speaking of Gardevoir, I was able to show I wasn't entirely a one-trick pony with my top 8 finish at Double Rainbow, playing a list that went on to be copycatted by a number of other strong players as well. I wish I could have performed better where it counted in 2024, but I'm excited to play against even stronger opposition in 2025. A notoriously strong player in the Japanese RSPK scene, Mei got a chance to prove himself in 2024 by having strong performances in nearly every event he entered, and finishing off the year with a dominant Stambler 5 victory. Mei's deck of choice is Bombtar, and like all Bombtar lists, has its own unique spin. His most recent list includes Minun, giving the deck POW locking capabilities it wouldn't otherwise have. It also plays a thicker warp package, a trendy decision in 2024, and one that has seen great benefits, such as allowing the deck to compete with POW locking decks without needing to explode the electrode. Of note is also Mei's Sceptile Lock deck that appears to be his own creation. Bearing many similarities to Ratlock, the deck uses the Unknown engine to set up a Sceptile EX and Pidgeot, allowing the deck to have offensive prowess by way of Sceptile EX, but also has a number of control cards like the Double Blob, Alakazam Star, and even a Lone Shuppet for energy control. He was able to pilot the strategy to a 5-1 finish at Boomer Cup this year. Finally, it should be mentioned that he ran back his Shedinja Fossils deck, which got him top 4 at Double Rainbow in 2023, at the Stambler Open 2 this year. Though he didn't top with it, this is a testament to his versatile approach to the format. With the preference of lock decks and his ability to constantly innovate, RSPK seems to be a home for him. I'm excited to see if Sceptile Lock continues to evolve, and if his Bomb Tower tech catches on. But whatever he plays, there's no doubt May has solidified himself as one of the top dogs in the format, and he's someone to watch out for as we go into 2025. This should come as no surprise to anyone involved in the RS2PK community. For those who aren't, Tord has won 3 tournaments. No other player has won more than 1. And these weren't shaky wins either, they were largely dominant wins, only dropping a game here or there to rough matchups. Tord, specifically on Railer, is a force of nature. The deck itself is arguably the BDIF, and it's not surprising that the modern GOAT on the best deck is able to plow through even seasoned veterans of the format. And it's not that Tord has just been loading up a tried and true list and farming. His more Rayquaza-focused approach to Railer has been a very novel approach, and his newest list with 4 Versus Seeker is quite possibly the most insane deck building decision we've seen in any 2024 winning list. It's unfortunate for Tord that his pet deck, LBS, has fallen off a cliff and has more or less been unviable in 2024. But for a player of his caliber, he's been able to roll with the punches effortlessly. The only real question in 2025 will be if Tord continues to show interest in the format and play in the outrageous Norway time zones that the Sambler Opens take place in. As one thing is for sure, if he plays, he will be a force to be reckoned with, and potentially even favored against the entire field if his 2024 results are anything to go off of. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Make sure to sign up for the Holland Cup in London in February. If you like this video, please keep your comments to yourself. If you dislike this video, please post it anywhere that you can.